From the FEMA
Maybe
camp?
we'll share a bunk bed together. You know,
Our virtual bunk bed.
it was a nice ride in the boxcar.
Hey, so I think we're gonna do the Black Sheep Report, season 1, episode 11. I think we got mixed up in the number of times we did this, or at least how many we have on record now. So let's just start a new baseline. We'll say we've done 10. This is
Like I
this is
said,
our 11th starting out, and we'll take it from there.
like we said, when we start like a Patreon or a subscribe star account, the lost episodes could, you know, be part of the package over there for a Tom Lock level.
In 50 years, they'll be
maybe
like the honeymooners lost episodes. All right, so I think we're intending to start reflect back on the insurrection at the Capitol, and I say insurrection in quotes.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the insurrection at the Capitol on January 6th, 2021, and the signs that. Well, I'll let you elaborate on this in a second, but I think we were talking about kind of, you know, guilt by association with the Trumpanzees, and especially as it pertains to treason. If you're a libertarian, or you don't vote because you don't want to perpetuate the system, basically you're going to be considered, you know, kind of anti-government, and probably on the new domestic terror watch list at minimum.
The irony of it is, that's all we've said. We don't want any part of this at all. Okay, we don't want to give our seal of approval, our imprimatur on the process. Okay, but here we are today. Okay, abstaining. Okay, trying to stay outside of the parameters of the political of the whole political dialectic, and it did us libertarian, whatever you want to call us, okay, because there's so many different variants within the liberty movement, okay, and somebody will take objection. I'm a voluntarist, I'm an agorist, you know, whoever we decide to call ourselves, okay, we've been smeared by the ex-commie, okay, the guy that voted for Gus Hall, CIA, former CIA hack, John Brennan, okay, as potential dissidents, okay? So basically, they've criminalized the beliefs of about close to 80 million people. I mean, I think we might be even generous by, you know, 75 million Trump voters, okay? And I have no idea how large the quote-unquote amalgam of the libertarian community is. But it's guilt by association, and it kind of accentuates, okay, the problem with movement libertarianism kind of never breaking away from a philosophical and intellectual system, okay, and morphing into a real activist type of a type of mode. Okay, I don't want to say movement because, you know, here again I'm showing my, you know, my belief system. I want to preserve the purity of my belief system. Okay, because I'm not a big movement guy. I think mass movements in and of itself can be even more dangerous than the current construct. Okay, there's the old Blake poem, you know, you strike the I'm probably getting it wrong, but essentially you strike at the tyrant's head, okay, you become the tyrant in his stead. I think I got the last part of that right. Okay, yeah. So I think movement, but there does need to be some organized structure, okay, for those bent on liberty and living free, okay, in order to you know, we need a strategy, okay, and whatever we had been doing in the past, you know, basically we'd be just posting memes and laughing at everybody else and telling them how fucking stupid they are. Okay.
Yeah.
But now we're in the same boat, okay, as these Trump guys, and we have many more. I know on my side, I have many more Trump friends than I do friends that support Biden. You know, many of them that we grew up with. So
Yeah.
maybe that there is a window of opportunity here. Okay, I think if the Trumpers could ever awake to the fact, okay, that the violence mechanisms of the state are not on their side, okay, and I'm not saying that they have to come full circle and say, okay, every cop is a criminal like we do, okay, and or every soldier is not. You know what I'm saying? They don't have to say every soldier is a war criminal or whatever, okay, and have the pure philosophical mindset of an anarchist or an agorist or whatever. But I think if they can at least acknowledge that these tools of the state are going to be leveraged against them, okay, and that it is a danger, that it's dangerous. What happened the last, especially the last, I'd say 25 to 30 years in the growth of the police state, okay, in the surveillance apparatus, okay. I think the Trumpers need to come to grips with that, and I think libertarians need to come to grips with the fact that we're just a bunch of beautiful thinkers, not really putting anything substantive out there that's going to move that's going to help to roll back the impact of the state on our lives. Okay.
Yeah, it's to your point about more Trumpers than not on your friends list. Mine's probably the same, but I've shed so many Trumpanzees over the years, even before being a Trumpanzee was even a thing. Just because some of them just aren't going to have their beliefs challenged, and if they do, it puts their own personal interest at risk because they either know somebody, or more specifically they have family members that are police, or they've been so brainwashed, they're just real big believers in authority, as long as it's their authority. But nonetheless, regardless of all the ones that I've lost over the years, there's still a lot around that haven't budged an inch on their positioning and their beliefs and their unrelenting support for the system, as long as it's their guy in there. But in the same breath, a lot of them are showing signs that they're starting to think, at least along the lines, as we do to a degree. Of course, it's after the fact that Biden's been put in office now, but I think they're going to have to experience some Biden and the other side,
Yeah.
And reflect back on how much different was it from when Trump was in office, or Bush for that matter, if you go back and back to Reagan, whatever, how much things have not changed regardless of who's in the office. Just that, I mean, I shouldn't say, I always say this, things always change, they just generally don't get better, right? It's it's a wolf in sheep's clothing, or whatever, the other side's going to come save the day, but it's all show and drama and theater, and you get more of the same no matter who's there. And like I said earlier, you're starting to see a lot of the Trumpers and Trump supporters kind of acknowledging that there's a bigger issue at hand, and it's not necessarily the guy who sits in the high castle in the White House.
And I think that's important, okay, because maybe now they'll realize that their guy, the whole thing was, since November 3rd, was stop the steal. Okay, we had a rigged election, which, in my opinion, it happens much more than we even know about. Okay, ever since I've gone down the rabbit hole with looking at conspiracies and the whole web, the whole matrix of control via think tanks, intelligence, okay, the corporatocracy, the CIA mingling in with the social media companies as for the data collection. As you go down, you realize that the whole there's a whole system of control, okay, that's guiding the whole electoral system toward the candidates they want, the people that they can use. Okay.
Yeah.
So now further down the road, maybe they'll realize, okay, this election was stolen from me. And I think there's evidence to that. I think they got a legitimate beef. Okay. But what makes them think it's going to be any better?
Right.
The next time so it's I think Trump supporters are going to have to find another means, okay, in order to try and that is if we all aren't in a re-education camp together, but to find another means to attack the system, and so are libertarians. Okay, I think we need to shed on the libertarian side, the anarchist side, we need to shed the whole ideological purity, okay, paradigm that we all bring to the table. Libertarians are just a big debating society. We can find more things to debate upon. Just the whole private property thing with tech giants, okay, spawns a whole debate. Okay, there are those that say, well, you want to challenge the tech companies, build your own tech company, and then you get the example of Parler, or build your own social media platform. Then you get the example of Parler that tries to do the same thing, and you see what happens to them. Even though, I'm not a supporter of the whole Parler platform.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we're
lousy platform anyway, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, I'm not. I think we talked about this a little bit previously, but I'm not rushing to jump off of Facebook I'm on Facebook for the most part, Instagram, but Instagram's a completely different focus for me. But I'm not running off of Facebook until they kick me off. What's the point?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so what are we going to do? We're gonna go live in these little echo chambers where we just talk to each other and think beautiful thoughts and say beautiful, whisper sweet nothings into each other's ear, or are we going to, here's the thing, okay? Your voice, okay, your message impacts others more than you think, okay?
Yeah.
I found that out that not the hard way, but I found that out the last year, okay? That it is making a difference, okay? I've seen people turn, okay? And I'm not saying it's solely due to me. These are people that are examining objective facts, but it is that constant little thing that message that gnaws in their ear, okay, and saying maybe there's a point here, okay. If it wasn't making an impact, they'd never try to silence you. So you go to these other platforms, it's basically a form of it's like a virtual boxcar, okay. They're trying to exile you out of they're trying to exile you and take you out of play. Okay.
Yeah.
That's what these other platforms are right now. In the next here's the thing. This goes around a discussion, that's a mini discussion that I had with the economist Per Bylan on Twitter. Okay. The next big thing will look nothing like Facebook, okay, Twitter, or right. It was like with MySpace, okay. The whole paradigm changed when Facebook and Twitter came into the equation, okay, and so it's an entrepreneurial problem that needs to be solved, not a technical problem, okay. Mm-hmm. I'm sure it'll be decentralized in some respects, maybe it's the Tim Berners-Lee description of Inrupt that he's creating, that platform that he's creating. Who knows what it's going to be? But here's what it is. The big weakness with Facebook, Twitter, and all the other giants that you want to throw into the mix is they've never served the consumer, okay? They've basically excavated the shell that we've put out there into the ether, okay? And they've cannibalized it, okay, for use for ads, okay, for intelligence, okay, for the purposes of the deep state. Okay, they've all been seeded with intelligence money, okay, and big time intelligence operatives in the surveillance state. So they've never served the consumer. Okay, so the next one that comes along is going to be one that serves the consumer. So in the meantime, we got all these copycats emerging. I think maybe the most original one in terms of its platform and its design and everything might be Gab. Okay, it's because Gab has really had to go it on its own. Okay, it had built everything basically from scratch. Okay, because it attracted, basically like the 4chan types, the people that are in their mom's basement, whatever, doing whatever, whacking off, and so it attacked the hard white nationalist type. Okay, and nobody would give them server space or whatever. They had to build their own infrastructure.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So the rest of them, though, I mean, I'm on MeWe. Okay, they tried to copy Facebook. Okay.
Yeah.
It's basically an uglier, clumsier form of Facebook, in my opinion.
Yeah. What was the Google thing they tried to do that they ended up shutting down, or they're going to be shutting down soon? Google Hangouts or something?
Well, I don't know. I didn't hear that.
You don't remember Google? I mean, it's been around for years. It was basically the Google.
So Google Hangouts are going to go now.
You what?
Google Hangouts are going to go. They're doing away.
I heard they weren't going to be supporting that anymore. Google wasn't going to be supporting it. I don't know. I read that a few months ago or something. But back to you made a comment earlier in this last kind of segment about the election. Believing there's some truth to the election being rigged or whatever. But I think when you talk about that, you need to kind of expand the context to kind of the system and not just the election, because when you keep saying the election, both sides focus on just the election. It was just a problem this time, right? And then if you look at it on a bigger scale, if you're talking about elections, every 4 years at least, the president, it's still kind of the same kind of look. It's always like us against them. This time they won, this time we won, but nobody ever wants to talk about the fact that the last two presidential elections you had. We're going back down this path again because my words are starting to sound familiar to me, but 4 years ago you had Trump and Hillary Clinton as your two options out of a country with 350 million people. Your best options to take over the reins of ruling the empire that pretty much rules the planet were Trump and Clinton. This year, 4 years later, it was Trump and arguably a fucking worse candidate than Clinton, Biden.
Yeah.
And like nobody ever goes, yeah, it's a fucking joke to start with, because those are our, and I got a pet peeve of people that call politicians leaders, but your two options for leader were Trump and Biden, previously Trump and Clinton. Nobody ever goes, yeah, that's probably the fucking problem to begin with, which it's not. It goes way deeper than that and way back farther than that. But the fact that, every one of these candidates is handpicked based on what, the deep state, the technocracy, the oligarchs want to have, let's try this flavor, let's try that flavor, keep everybody kind of divided, keep certain segment happy for, 4 years, then, mix in another one, all based on, what they're forecasting, their needs are to keep their power in place.
Yeah. Here's the thing where I see a little bit of a difference. Okay. Because I agree with you that it's really just designed to give you the voter, the worst choices possible. And that you got to get on board, and the whole idea that you need to get on board with somebody. The whole illusion that votes make a difference, that's very heavily propagandized, and you're basically shamed if you do not participate in that system. But here's where it kind of like differs. This was very much in your face, kind of like the whole psyop with the fucking fake pandemic. Okay, everything has been in your face. Okay, the ruling class. Okay, whoever that is, and like I said, it's layered and it's varied. It's like concentric circles within circles. Okay. They have stepped up the stuff. They're not even trying to hide what they want to do anymore. Okay. And that's where I see this as being different. Basically 6 states closing down at the same time. Okay. And then following the same patterns of, okay, we're going to count the mail-in ballots now. Now, this is not to say that Trump was his own worst enemy on this. Okay. He set the stage for this to happen. Okay. And we spoke about this on previous episodes. Okay. By keeping the state of emergency in effect and everything, he would take cheap shots here and there at Dr. Fauci. Okay. But he did nothing to scuttle his influence during the most critical days of the pandemic. Okay. Giving $1 billion, okay, to an mRNA vaccine, which had never been tested before, okay, with 2 different companies, okay, financing that, bankrolling it, okay, and trying to even, basically shove it down the populace's throat with his whole warp speed plan, okay. So, I'm willing to hear that Trump was his own worst enemy, okay, but we can't dismiss out of hand, is all I'm saying, that there's a legitimate grievance. And if that serves as a wake-up call to these people to not put their full faith, okay, if we just get the right guys, kind of like the cop argument, if we just get the right people, then I think there are some areas where we can have somewhat of an alliance on, okay? But it requires us as well shedding, we've got alliance on this vaccine, okay? Let's not squander that. You know what I'm saying? I think almost every Trump supporter, not almost every, but I'd say a large number of them, they're very suspicious of this vaccine, okay? And vaccine passports and the whole technocracy that they see emerging. I mean, I think you've seen it with some people as well, okay? They realize now that we're not just that what we've been talking about. We're not just conspiracy theorists. This is reality. Okay.
Yeah.
Men of power get together and make plans, not just to see who gets to hold power. Okay. But how they can control the masses. Okay. And that's been the thrust of this whole New World Order, the orchestrated attempt to control the masses through so many different means, not just the news media, but all of our social institutions, which the schools, the whole allopathic medical system and everything. All of it came together. We talk about the Great Conjunction. Well, here's the Great Conjunction, okay? All of it coming together during this pandemic, okay? And if they can wake up and see that, okay, I think we, who are opposed to the state altogether, we can work on some of these in order to try and make a difference. Now, I think it all does come down to of resisting where you are, but it becomes easier to resist when you know you have company as well. Let's not sell that short.
Yeah. Strength in numbers.
Okay. So if you've got company, okay, that's what helps. If you're a little afraid, okay, we can build up each other in that area.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't mean strength in numbers like the mob and strength, physical strength. I just mean and of course it has the risk of groupthink mentality creeping in pretty quickly. And you alluded to this when we very first started about what did you say? You said something about if you hit the tyrant in the head, you become the tyrant, right?
You
something like that. You said
instead.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when I say strength and numbers, I'm talking more about like a somewhat ideology and just kind of reaffirming thoughts and in a kind of a nonviolent
exactly. Okay.
nonviolent non-aggression kind of principles in place. And it's from a mental health perspective too. It's the more people that are engaging and want to talk about issues like this, I think the healthier it is, because you do get other perspectives, and you do kind of get yourself out of your own tunnel vision, and people do put things, even when I post stuff about not voting, and that all these problems are the fault of the voters because they consent. Someone always like, oh well, what's the better? Well, give us options, give us alternatives. I get that, but that's not my fucking job to come up with alternatives. I'm just pointing out that the system sucks, and
Well,
we need to dispense with it.
we need to change our behavior. That's the alternative. That's
yeah,
not give legitimacy to authority.
Yeah, but the position that you can't do that unless you have an alternative, I call bullshit on. That's a lazy way out. It's like, why do I need to give you an alternative? I'm talking about a problem. Why can't you first acknowledge that it's a problem and stop doing it as we figure out an alternative? But I'm not necessarily looking for an alternative either.
Well, see, here's the thing, okay? Anarchists, agorists, whatever, they're not selling you utopia, okay? Nowhere is it ever said we're selling you utopia. You're not going to solve the problem of human nature, okay? Of the dark side of human nature, no matter what, okay? But look at what we got in its place when we acknowledge these systems of power, okay? If you're not going to trust people with freedom, okay, I'd rather err on the side of freedom. That's the whole point. You can't trust people with freedom. How are you going to trust them with power? Okay, the whole power paradigm creates the freaking Karens. Okay, it's creating Karens right now, not just in the political sense, but within the social context. Okay, we got a snitch culture developing. A group of people that want to call the manager, a group of people that want to see you get arrested because you don't have your mask over your nose, or you're not wearing one at all. Okay, that's what's reared its ugly head. Okay, so we see, now you need to see the problems with power in illegitimate authority.
Yeah. And honestly, I'm a big I can't stand the if you don't vote, you can't complain, blah blah blah. But what drives me nuts is the whole, my rights of being dependent on a fucking majority.
Yeah.
Why do my rights and freedoms and liberties depend on what 50, just over 50% of the other group,
Well, technically, according to the Constitution, it's supposed to be off the table, but that's not the way it works.
Yeah.
It's saying, okay, you can't go this far, and we see how you just see it within the context of the second president of the United States. It probably happened with Washington too. Okay, it's no sooner, okay, do we adopt a constitution about 8 years later, okay, or Adams is imposing the Alien Sedition Act, right? Okay, the Constitution that was supposed to break that, so anybody that speaks evil of the country, okay, it became suspect. Okay, kind of like what we have today. Okay, the same boss, the new boss, the same as the old. Okay, nothing really changes. Okay, and so ever since that time, it's the tricameral, the three branches of government have been doing their level best to usurp and use incrementalism in order to take back what they said was reserved for us.
Yeah, I mean, it's just following along since the 20th, since the inauguration. Since I think, what'd you call it? I refer to it as the war criminal reunion, and you called it the war criminal convention, I think, on the 20th. Ever since then, executive orders have been getting a lot of attention too, because apparently, these executive orders are okay because the majority,
pedophile link too.
Yeah, the majority, approved of Biden according to, the voting results. So now all the executive orders, the ones that he's reversing, Trump's, as well as new ones, they're all okay because the majority think so. That's kind of my point, right?
Yeah.
You know,
Let me interrupt you just 1 second. Sorry. Did you see the any of the? I have people take screenshots. If you go on YouTube, you can see it too. The whole ceremony they have on YouTube, and they have the likes and the dislikes. I mean, it's staggering the amount of dislikes that that were over there. So is everybody that's using YouTube just a fucking a right winger? Well, I mean, it, I'm just looking at it and saying, there's this guy who's taking power now. We're supposed to believe he got 80 million votes.
yeah. Yeah, the whole there's it's so many moving parts and it's so intentionally confusing. But like the whole Dominion voting thing,
Yeah.
stories about them being hacked, and of course, if you try to Google something, the first fucking 20 pages of results are going to be, if you try to Google anything that's not the basic narrative that you're intended, that they're trying to make you believe and support. And if you try to Google anything that doesn't, align directly with that, it's like forget about trying to find fucking data and, sources that, all these social justice warriors are always demanding when you post something. But it's just, how are you ever gonna get to the bottom of like voter fraud or whatever if you can't first acknowledge that the system's fucking, the system isn't gonna fix itself. It's making it bigger is not going to fix it. It's designed as is right now with its most recent, software upgrade or upgrade in general. It's not designed to be fixed. It's designed intentionally to be the way it is.
Yeah, it's working as intended. That's what they can't say. They say, "Oh, the system's broken." No, it's working as intended. It's working as intended. Okay, it's about taking care of the oligarchy. Okay, it's about the upward transfer of wealth. Okay, it's about the finance industry, according like that article that you sent me today. Okay, shielding itself under the guise of a pandemic. Okay, in order to make these moves. Okay, in order to mitigate the collapse of the dollar. Okay, and it's also about the change of behavior, so we will adopt these new AI technologies, okay, and that get rid of these legacy systems. Telemedicine needs to come into play. Autonomous vehicles, okay. They want robots. They want you morphing with the robot, okay, becoming this transhumanist golem, okay, via the gene manipulation, okay, and Elon Musk style brain, I don't know what, for lack of a better term, transplants, okay, that you can plug into the matrix, okay. This is what they want. This whole transhumanist view. It's all meshed together. Okay, it's not just one thing; it's many things. And like I said at the outset when we were discussing it too, we need to acknowledge too. Okay, it looks like that some of this was targeted. Okay, at least according to the narratives that are emerging now, to getting Trump out of office. Okay.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
It needs to be looked at from a holistic perspective, and not just one angle.
Yeah, and another key thing to like kind of pay attention to is the thing all the the folks on the left that just couldn't stand the sight or sound of Trump, no matter what he was saying, when he was saying it, or whatever context. Just look at the things they're focusing on now that are different. It's not like, of course, it's only been a few days, but it's not like there's less war, there's less bombs dropping, there's less tyranny, there's less police shootings, there's less police misconduct, there's less troops getting killed, there's less troops killing. All that stuff remains the same. We talked about the corporate technocrats and oligarchs making more money. Those guys, the 1% made like, I don't know, some crazy hundreds of billions of dollars in net gains in their wealth in the stock market, just since the beginning of the year. All that stuff aside, people are talking about like how much better things are now because the tweet storms have stopped. Somebody on Facebook, who I think is a pretty smart guy, you know, posts things like, about the tweet storm stopping, and it's not interrupting their sleep anymore. It's like, really? Like, the tweet storms were interrupting your sleep, not all the other fucking shit this country, the government on behalf of you, the voter, the government for the people, by the people, does on your behalf with your consent. None of that stuff keeps you up. It's the tweet storm stop, so you can unclutch your pearls now and take a deep sigh of relief, and things are going to get back to normal.
Yeah, I mean,
are you kidding me?
Yeah,
no more lies. There's no more lies coming out because Trump's out of office.
And then this also ties back to the whole outrage at the so-called insurrection. They attacked the Citadel, the sacred holy place, the holy chambers. Okay,
the sacred chambers.
The same people that sent your kids off to bullshit wars. Okay, and they're starving. That they're fighting a proxy war, helping the Saudis fight a proxy war in Yemen and starving the Yemenis to death. That's not offensive to you. That's not disgusting, right?
Yeah.
It's disgusting what happened, that fucking Viking was on the floor sitting in Nancy Pelosi's chair. You really, this is what you're upset about. And then I had one person justify the shooting of Ashley Babbitt, which is looking, just like an atypical cop, I feared for my safety bullshit type of a thing, saying, well, she put herself in harm's way and she could have gotten at the ballots. So now we're going to put ballots, okay, pieces of paper above human life. Okay, let's look at where the life loss was. It was with the insurrectionists, the quote unquote insurrection. See, I'm even using their language. It just goes to show you how powerful and what a spell they cast. That these
normal.
Yeah.
Wait, Anthony just said insurrection. These are
the insurrectionists. Okay. Yeah. Really. What did they make off with? They made off with a podium.
Apparently, the worst things that happened were there was a guy in the
cops.
Yeah, apparently the worst things that happened on the 6th were a guy in a Chewbacca suit and horns. Just him alone being there seemed to get people worked up enough. Apparently putting your feet up on Pelosi's desk.
Yeah.
Would you mention the podium being trotted around? And honestly, somebody shortly after that posted something like, another pearl clutching, gasping moment of, unbelievable what I'm witnessing. When was the last time that Confederate flag was trotted through the Capitol building? Back in 18 something. I was like, and I just said, besides when slaves were building that building, I don't know. You tell me. And just no response. Some flag I don't like was trotted through the Capitol, and it's sacrilegious.
Well, yeah, it just shows you the power of symbolism and the way it holds the human mind. Okay, you have the same type of thinking. Okay, on the right as well. We know what we suffered since 2016 with the whole national anthem and the kneeling at the national NFL players and all that. Everything is preserve the symbols. Okay, preserve songs. Putting that above the violence that the state is perpetrating on people every single day. The violence that it inserts itself into your life every day. Okay. That you've just grown accustomed to. Okay, you've grown accustomed to all the indignities. Okay, whether it's an overt act by the police, police violence, or being treated like shit at a DMV center. Okay, you've come to expect that now. Okay, that's normal, and you're taught, okay, no matter how bad it is, okay, no matter how much it humiliates me or interferes in my life, no matter how much a fat TSA agent pats me down, okay, I have the comfort of knowing I live in the best country in the world. And you need to stand up and salute that flag, okay, and protect it.
Yeah.
Because the flag is more important than what it represents.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, the flag. I don't even want to get into the flag thing and fucking national anthems. But if you look at the nonsense at the inauguration, the war criminal reunion back last week, with the J Lo and like I don't know who else. I just heard names. I didn't really see anything, and I heard some names and some songs, but it was like everybody was singing like some kind of patriotic song. Even Garth Brooks. Somehow they tried to Garth Brooks out there at that thing. Just singing these patriotic songs and like symbolism and magical holy songs are going to unite a country. Yeah. And it does to a degree, which is fucking sad.
Yeah.
The reality is never factored into people's thought process and critical thinking. Magic songs, holy symbols,
unity. Unity and healing. And now you got people that are perfectly content to put close to 80 million people on a no-fly list. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Unity and healing. That'll bring us all together. That'll bring us all together.
Yeah, I mean, 80 million people. I assume you're talking about just because of how they voted or how they expressed
I'm saying, I'm taking Trump supporters, which is like 74, right? Yeah. I don't know how much the rest of us comprise. So I'll say roughly 80 million people, because some of that too, some of those FEMA, those re-education camps will be slated for those on the left that are anti-war. Okay. Yeah. Pro free speech as well. So.
Yeah, that doesn't factor in any shift in one direction or another on those 80 million people if a lot of them get vaccinated or don't get vaccinated. I imagine the tyranny will be worse if a greater majority of those 80 million people also don't get vaccinated, because that'll be another lever they can adjust to restrict people and curtail freedoms and liberties if people don't get the Biden poke, formerly known as Trump jab.
Now let's kind of segue now into the whole medical tyranny thing and the pandemic. Keep seeing article after article pop up, okay, about how they're saying that this vaccine, basically they can't guarantee that there's no transmission, okay? It takes place even after taking the vaccine. So how are you going to do? So now the next thing is, so now how can you do vaccine passports, okay, when this vaccine right now is proven they can't prove conclusively whether it stops transmission.
Yeah,
it's going to be impossible to do that. I mean, from a grounded, now if you're an evil person, okay, bent on control, and you're twirling your mustache behind the scenes trying to, you'll always come up with a way to interject tyranny, okay? But usually they have an edifice that they build something upon, okay? And these vaccine passports can't go into effect unless they can somehow pull reports or studies out of their backsides, okay, that say, okay, this stops transmission, okay? So somewhere along the line, they're going to have to justify this vaccine on those grounds in order to proceed to the next step, okay?
Yeah.
And so I think maybe we're going to see a delay. We can find a means to try and get around this in the interim while they try and implement these vaccine passports.
Yeah. I think one of the interesting things is, I mean, it's not interesting. It's not shocking. It's just funny that nobody, all the pro-vaxxers, and and I'm talking about pro-vaxxers in the context of the the Pfizer and Moderna
Yeah.
vaccines. That nobody says a peep about injuries and health issues after post vaccine. Specifically, like Hank Aaron, right? Hank Aaron got the one of those 2 vaccines on the 5th of January.
Yeah.
He was going out to make a statement to the black community about getting behind the vaccines and going out and getting your vaccine and doing your part. And not one. I haven't seen one mainstream story about Hank Aaron dying that didn't focus on his that focused on the fact that he got a vaccine. Nobody talks about it. Like it's almost as if there's just 100% confidence the vaccine had nothing to do with him dying. And as a matter of fact, I don't know if Larry King actually got one, but a couple of weeks ago, it was like Larry King is he's recovered from his COVID, and things are looking good. Next thing you know, he dies, and it's another COVID death.
Yeah.
But there's so many stories now and articles that and a lot of them like from pretty reputable news sources. If maybe they considered to be alternative media or whatever the non-mainstream media is, but tons and tons of stories about either and I understand, like contaminated batches of vaccines doesn't necessarily mean the vaccine is bad. It's just there's some QA, quality control, quality assurance issue along the lines of chains of custody or whatever, or somewhere along the lines got contaminated.
Yeah.
But there's just so many stories of coming up about people that have been reporting just adverse effects from like minor things that of course a lot. Oh, I had a sore arm, I had a fever, whatever, to like paralysis and all kinds of problems, and people dying, and nobody's saying anything that's related to the vaccine on TV. You won't hear a peep about that. And
No,
of course, it's hook, line, and sinker. The media gazers watch it, and then you post something. You post something. They challenge you, like, what's your source? Where's the science? It's like, how about you fucking come up with some real science once in a while? And please don't post a CNN article with an article to, the CDC that links back to an article to fucking Moderna, in their data.
Yeah. Now we're up to 29 deaths of the elderly deaths post-vaccination in Norway, and they've already ruled out that there is no connection to the Pfizer vaccine. None.
Yeah.
So it's like we said from the outset. Okay, with COVID. Okay, comorbidities don't matter. Okay, to the narrative, everything needs to be viewed as that this is the most dangerous disease since the Black Plague. Okay, that comorbidities aren't a factor, but comorbidities are everything. Okay, and the only thing when it comes to a vaccine. And if people can't see the whole inversion, the whole method of inversion in that narrative, then they're very blind.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about WHO. We've been talking about we have been talking about
PCR cycle threshold.
Your PCR cycle threshold. Okay, and how it's a control knob. Okay, it could create an instant pandemic because a PCR test set at 40 cycles is able to magnify the smallest genetic material up to over 4 trillion times. Okay.
Yeah.
4 trillion times. Okay. and amplify that piece of protein.
Yep.
Okay. It'll never tell you how sick you are. So
Right.
the same way it could
Well, and just one thing, it'll never tell you how sick you are. It'll never tell you if you were sick.
Yeah,
either.
Absolutely. So they, you can manufacture a pandemic from scratch, and on the flip side, okay, what you can do is you can roll back the cycle threshold, which is what the WHO is recommended right now, saying that we've generated millions upon millions of false positives with this test. Okay. And this is not only, this is also factoring into the number of deaths, the number of declared deaths, the death toll as well. Everybody's forgetting that.
Yeah.
And now you roll back the cycle threshold, and presto, this vaccine is doing its trick now all of a sudden.
Mm-hmm.
Vaccine is working.
Yeah. Well, finally, all of our, Fauci was on TV this morning talking about it's absolutely critical that we get 70 to 80% of the population vaccinated to get things back to normal. I don't know, next summer or this summer coming up, or some bullshit, some Fauci fucking nonsense. But the PCR CT values. I was watching. I forget the guy's name. Somebody sent it to me last night. I was watching a little bit of this video. It was a Joe Rogan video.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, they were talking about that. The cycle threshold said.
Was it Barron's?
Yeah, Barron.
Yeah, I saw that.
Cycle threshold set at 40. The 3 or 4 trillion amplifies one piece of virus or virus debris. Trillions of times. 4 trillion times, I think he said.
Yeah.
And he basically said something like, that means if somebody had a positive test or was deemed positive at that cycle threshold, in the last 28 days, whether they were sick or not, but it's worse if you think about they were never sick, but they walk out the door one morning within a 28-day window and they get run over by a bus, they're going down as a COVID death.
COVID death, yeah.
Whether they were sick or not. And then there's more, he was, I think it was him, or I can't remember where I was seeing it, but basically, and this is changing over time. They're starting to look at this data differently and connect the dots differently, because of course it works for the narrative. But basically, they were keeping track of all the positive tests, not the cycle thresholds or anything like that, just pure positive tests, in a database. And then in any particular city or county, when someone died, as soon as a death certificate was issued, they're looking at the death certificate and looking in the database for positive test results, and just automatically, if there was a connection, calling it a COVID death without any other information.
Yeah. Positive
test and a death in a certain amount of time just means it was a COVID death. And you've seen me, I've been asking, I don't ask it every day, but I ask it pretty frequently. Anytime someone posts just cases, or death, just the total numbers, and I say, what's the breakdown of people that were sick, people that weren't sick, false positives and false negatives for that matter. False negatives or false positives is what I mean for that matter. Asymptomatic cases, with or from, all that stuff, right? And it's been fucking crickets every single time I asked that. And then finally somebody on Facebook says, this is the guy I was referring to earlier. It seems like a pretty smart guy when it comes to this stuff. He's like, I'm gonna go find the data and see what I can come up with. I'm just like, all right, take your time, man. I'd be interested in seeing it, but I'd be surprised if any of that data is out there. At least now it'll be there at some point once they're able to kind of tweak and manipulate the numbers and turn the right dials. But that'll be as more of the new data flows in with the cycle thresholds turned down.
I know the guy that you're referring to and everything, and it's, I don't even have a problem with these people having a different view about, about the danger of this virus or whatever. Our experience shapes our perception of reality, and that's fine. But there's never a moment of pause or reflection as to, you know, why these death certificates we're granting such wide liberty with pronouncing COVID deaths with the death certificates. Nobody ever wants to answer that.
Yeah.
Okay, and the person that you're talking about. Okay, I only seen a limited conversation. I don't know what type of other conversation we'll have with him. Has he even acknowledged that that's a problem?
No.
I mean, at least acknowledge that it's a problem. I'm not here to change your mind. Okay, but can you see the inconsistencies in that? Can you see the inconsistent? I mean, do they even say the gross problem? And it's been out there since the summer about an amplification range set at 40 cycles.
Yeah.
Okay, for this test, and the number of it's designed to get positives.
Yeah,
Okay.
not even. Yeah, you're right. This person nobody except a small circle of people that we interact with together, and then probably a smaller degree separately. Nobody even acknowledges, like you said, that could be a problem or has been an issue. The first time was this guy going, "I'm going to go find the data," but didn't even acknowledge that, like, the PCR tests have been a problem historically for the last year. And the fact that you don't even have to be on the death list. You don't even have to have a positive test result, a PCR or any other type of test result, to be on the corona death wish, the death list. You could be on the death list just because you presented flu-like illness and symptoms of, like pneumonia and stuff. That's enough to get COVID as the cause of death on your death certificate.
Yeah, here's the best part too. The reference source for this, when the thing, the publication that blew the lid off of this was not it's not Zero Hedge. Okay, it's not some alt media site. Okay, this was New York Times.
Yeah.
Okay, and I heard crickets from these people when the New York Times and legitimate virologists. Okay. Are, especially the guy that's heavily quoted in that. I don't know if he's a virologist or a physician. Okay, Dr. Mina was his name. Okay, was acknowledging that the extent of the problem over here. Okay, and the fact that some people were testing because it's so sensitive. Some people are testing twice. Okay, and coming up with a positive with no symptoms because they need to test again before they go back to work. Okay, so this gets added to the case number. Okay,
yep.
Everybody wants to say 400,000 dead. Okay, X number of cases, but nobody ever questions the validity of the numbers. And this is also what I want to get into too, because it's kind of been a bee in my bonnet. You could disagree with me if you want. Okay,
right.
I think I see a lot of people going around with the excess death argument. Okay, and there is some truth to the fact that as they track these numbers month over month, okay, from what I saw in 2020, that the total deaths were in line of 2020 were in line with the previous year, okay, which saying, okay, maybe there's not as many. But here's the thing too. All the people that cite this are the same people on our side that say, the number of deaths are going to increase, but it won't be because of the virus. It'll be from suicides, people not getting their regular cancer screenings. Okay, people not getting treatments, heart disease, and all of that. So, I think it's a sucker's argument, in my opinion, that because I think that there is going to be excess deaths. Okay. But the problem is once you get into that argument, you're getting into the argument where the system is able to control the numbers, okay, and pull the numbers down on other types of deaths, like they did in the ONS in England, okay. The numbers for November and January for other types of death, cancer and heart disease, so forth, were 20% below where they were, and then they still showed an overall bump the last couple of months of the year in deaths, and they all attributed it to COVID. Okay, so we kind of put ourselves in the corner, I think, with that excess death argument. I don't know what your feelings are on it, because I would expect more excess deaths, but not necessarily from coronavirus.
Right. Yeah. No, I think we're pretty aligned. Everything I've read, that there is excess deaths, and you factor in the annual, what you'd expect based on the elderly population growing, et cetera, et cetera. But just the whole flu thing. There's like no flu cases now.
Just look at the flu. Nobody's dying of the flu anymore.
Yeah. Anyway, the excess deaths thing is, we'll probably see something over time. But I was talking to my neighbor the other day. We were talking about this, and first thing he trotted out was, "Oh, there's less people on the road, less traffic deaths. That's why you're not seeing it." Okay. Well,
that probably makes more sense than the flu.
Yeah, no, I know, but
actually, that argument makes more sense than the flu.
Yeah, but honestly, there's I don't know where the data is for that either. We have to wait and see. When it's important enough for somebody to look at and go, traffic accident deaths, over the last 5 years, and here's what the line tells us in the trend.
Yeah.
It's all these things we're talking about, it's they're all very similar. It's hard to counter an argument and get somebody to forget about change and get somebody to change their position. It's just getting to think differently than just being a consumer of what they see on the news and in their trusted, reliable the links that show up the first page of their Google searches. Mm-hmm. It's getting someone to challenge their own beliefs is we talked about it. It was an uncomfortable feeling for me at first. As I'm thinking through just the stuff about the cops, as I was reading article after article and positions about the monopoly on force and not being able to opt out of that service. The first year or so thinking about that stuff, it was uncomfortable. Like, wow, could I have been it's like same thing when I changed my diet and try to improve my health. Like it's a tough pill to swallow. When you kind of think about you've been lied to and fed this bullshit your whole life. That you're gullible and it was easy to kind of shape and be brainwashed. Have your brain and how you think and your thoughts shaped by propaganda. And you get to kind of a tipping point where you're like, you know what, I was a sucker and I'm not going to be a sucker anymore. And then you get more into the habit of constantly questioning and learning and in pursuit for information and being able to change your opinion and look at different views. It's pretty liberating for me. But that first phase of just thinking to yourself, have I been duped my whole life? Was I duped by my parents? Was I duped by the school system? Was I duped by the gang of friends I hang around with?
Well, your parents were duped. Okay, so I wouldn't, No,
I'm not saying it was an intentional thing.
Yeah.
They were duped the same way we were duped.
Yeah, that's right.
So were their parents.
Yeah. My parents were duped. Your parents were duped. We all fell in line, and with not just the lies, that the paradigm that this system needed, that you needed, the certain benchmarks, okay, that we all had in what was being called a well-lived life, okay, that it had to go through this progression, okay, a progression that was for a great part of the human experience very unnatural for us anyway, okay, but we now only see it within the whole technological paradigm and in the terraforming of our environment, okay. I mean, are we all better off that we have a terraformed environment? Okay, we've certainly made ourselves more comfortable, but is it better off for us in terms of mental health, physical health, overall well-being? Are we compromising ourselves intellectually, okay, by having technology do things for us that we used to have to figure out for ourselves. Okay, technology has been a sword for a double-edged sword for mankind. Okay, the whole paradigm of progress. Okay, there could only be progress. Okay, anymore. We always need to abide by these metrics. We always need to be moving forward. Well, why? Why can't we be content? Why can't? Is there not a place where human beings can be content? Okay, those types of things. Okay, we need to challenge the premises, underlying premises of everything. Okay, because in many ways we're living in something that's artificial, a simulacra. Okay, of certain things.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to wax too philosophical. I haven't done my homework to the way I did. These are thoughts that are just coming to me right now. But we need to challenge the idea. Do we need all of this? Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Do we need all of this?
Yeah. All right. And so on that note, we're at about 106. Why don't we?
Yep. I think it's a good time to close.
Why don't we call it an end to the Black Sheep Report, Season 1, Episode 11. I'll stop recording. You and I can stay on, and we'll catch up and talk about next steps.
Okay.
All right.
See you guys later.
Cool. Talk to you later.